I heard about a policeman in New York City, and he had graduated from police academy, and he was excited. Oh, he's so excited. In fact, the teacher of the police academy told the chief of police, "You've got to watch this young guy. He's going to get killed the first week he's out there because he's so excited about being a policeman." So they put him in a park, a quiet park, didn't even give him a gun. So he could walk around that park. He just disappointed to death. He thought, boy, as soon as he got out of police academy, it was going to be gangbusters and Kojak and everything else all of a sudden. And here he is, walking quietly in a quiet, serene park, where all he could hear was a bird singing. Disappointed. And one day, walking along there, thinking about what all the other policemen were doing, he looked up on the bridge, and there's a man on the bridge about ready to jump over and commit suicide. He thought, boy, here's my chance. So he runs up there, nightstick hitting his side of his leg, shirt tail sticking straight out. He runs up there and he grabs the guy and says, "Stop, stop." And almost scared the guy to death. And he said, "Don't jump, don't jump." He said, "In fact, the matter is," he said, "I've been a graduate of the police academy, and I studied psychology and sociology and logic and all the various kinds of ologies. And if you'll permit me, we'll talk this thing over." And he said, "We'll come to a logical, psychological conclusion about all of this." He said, "We can find a solution to your problem." He said, "In fact," he said, "what we'll do," he said, "I'll tell you why you shouldn't jump for 5 minutes. And then you can tell me why you think you should jump for 5 minutes. And then we'll just come to a good logical conclusion." So he told him, said, "Somebody loves you somewhere. Please don't jump. It's not a solution to your problem. Please don't jump." He said, "The river's already polluted. Please don't jump." And when he got through, the guy said, "Well, it'll take me 5 minutes to tell you why I think I should jump." He said, "A butcher's come around to collect a bill with a dog and a double-barrel gun. My wife's on the warpath, and my mother-in-law just came to move in permanent residence at the house. The roof is leaking. Car won't start. The IRS is about ready to take everything I got away from me." They told him all the reasons why he thought he should jump, and he joined hands with the policeman, and they both jumped off the bridge. Isn't that the way we solve our problems? No. I believe that the solution to our problem in this world is, "Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him." Jesus is going to come one of these days and take us out of this mess. That's the solution to the problem. Yes, I believe he's going to come because of the need of the hour in which we live. There was a polling organization that sent out a questionnaire to all the daily newspapers in America. The question was, if you could write tomorrow's headlines and it would be true, what would you say? A lot of them wrote back and said, "Well, if I could write tomorrow's headlines and it would be true, I would say we found a cure for cancer." Some wrote back and said, "If I could write tomorrow's headlines and it would be true, I would say no more racial strife, or no more wars, or no more problems among our societies." And one newspaper down here in Texas, Christian editor, wrote back and said, "If I could write tomorrow's headlines and it would be true, for me and my family, I would say Jesus has come." So that's what I would write. Not going to be any solving of any problems until the Lord reigns in Zion. They beat their swords to plowshares and they study war to war. There's not going to be any solution to man's problems until the Savior comes. He's going to take us out of here. That's the solution to the Christian's problems right there. Then I believe that the Lord's going to come because of something private in my own heart. It's kind of hard for me to explain it to you. It's not something that you could possibly put on a dissecting table of a doctor in his laboratory and explain the function of each part. It's not something maybe you could draw out on an architect's drawing board and explain the pressure points. It's not something that you may be able to write down in a dictionary of any language. It's not something that you can easily explain to an audience. It's called hope. This little thing down in my heart. I received it as a boy on my knees at a little old country church altar where the carpet was worn through on the floor, and I knelt and asked Jesus to save me. And I lifted my heart up to Him, and I called out upon Him, and I said, Lord, I cannot save myself. I tried. I was a baptized member of the Church of the Brethren. I'd taken communion in the love feast. I had all the privileges of that church, but I wasn't saved. You know, the churches are full of unsaved people in America. You know that? No. When I came to the altar that night, I came desperately. I don't know when you got saved if you were desperate. I was desperate. I knew that this was the only thing. This was my last chance. That's the way I felt. And I asked the Lord to come into my heart. I heard an old-fashioned preacher preach. His tie didn't match his coat, and his coat didn't match his pants, but his sermon matched me. Right down to every point of his message. I always said he had the longest finger of anybody I ever saw, because he pointed the whole way from that Bible right down to my heart. I walked the aisle while they were singing, "Oh, do not let the word depart, nor close thine eyes against the light. Poor sinner, harden not your heart, be saved, oh, tonight." And there on my knees that night I received a hope. A hope that looks beyond the dark shadow of a coffin lid. Just buried my closest brother. There were 6 of us boys in our family. I was the last one. I always save the last one, best one to last in the family. How many last ones we got there today? You're the last one in your family. All right, you can look around and see. But I just buried my brother, 85 years old the other day. Wow. It's hard to bury your loved ones. He was the closest of the family to me, except for my mom and dad. Not just far, just a little ways from my dad and mom's grave. We buried him. In fact, he'd called me about 2 months before and said, "Larry, I want us to go by our graves." He said, "I want to be buried next to you." So he and his wife and me and Lois, we went out to the cemetery and we bought 4 lots next to one another. I didn't have any idea that it would be just weeks until we would use his. It's pretty tough to say goodbye. I don't like to say goodbye. I've said goodbye almost all of my life. I said goodbye on the back porch of our little country home when God had called me as a teenage boy to go preach. I got in that old car, that old Ford, went down the road from our house across the railroad tracks to the town where I got a Greyhound bus, and I left on the road to evangelism. Evangelism has no stop signs, that road. It just keeps going on. That's been over 60 years ago for me. I hugged my mother up in my arms and I kissed her cheeks covered with her own salty tears when I said goodbye. I've said goodbye to my family so often. Sometimes in a jet airplane, I look out the little window and see my family standing on an observation deck somewhere in this world, waving goodbye at me, to be gone sometimes for 3 months at a time away from my family. Some of the places where I've had to go preach. I don't like to say goodbye. Other languages have a hope in their goodbye. Hasta mañana, until tomorrow. Au revoir. Until the next visit in French. But in America, just goodbye. Just chop it off here. Whack. Sounds like the thud of a meat cleaver on a butcher's block. We'll cut her off right here. I don't like to say goodbye. Sometimes I've said in my own heart, does Jesus care when I've said goodbye to the dearest on earth to me? When my sad heart aches and it nearly breaks, does he care for naught does he see? The question that sometimes I've asked, but this wonderful hope in my heart that looks beyond the river of death over in the land of the living says to me in answer, oh yes, he cares. I know he cares. For his heart is touched with my grief. When the long day is dreary and the long night is weary, I know my Savior cares. Now this hope tells me, one of these days, he's going to come again. We Christians have that promise of eternity with the Lord. What a great promise that is. I was in the Philippines getting ready for our big service over there. I was going to preach to about 10,000 people on Sunday. And I had a man coming over from the States, businessman that I was going to meet. He's coming for the special service that we're going to have. And he flew in the international airport in Manila. I went to pick him up, and when he got off, his face was very stern. I'll never forget his looks on his face. He looked at me and said, Brother Clayton, you haven't heard, have you? I said, no, I haven't. What is it that I haven't heard? He said, there was a terrible crash in North Carolina. Your grandson-in-law, granddaughter had a wreck. The little baby girl was killed. Little Aslan was killed. He said, I hate to bring the news to you, but so I haven't heard. So I went right away and called my wife, and she said, yes, I'm on my way to North Carolina. I said, well, I'll get out of here as quickly as I can. So I had to get an emergency flight out. All the Filipino girls and the travel agencies were so good to me, and they got me out of there and got me to Los Angeles and spend the night at the airport, and then part of the night at least. And then I had to fly to Atlanta, catch a plane out of there to North Carolina. And I'll tell you the truth, I was so sick when I got in, I should have been in the hospital myself. But I actually preached 3 times there at that occasion. And we took her little body, couldn't even open the casket because she was so badly bruised. Took her little body, little casket, up to a little cemetery outside of where the church was. And just a family gathered under the tent. And we all sit down there, and with my 2 sons and my son-in-law, and my grandsons and grandsons-in-law, there's 12 of us that are preachers. So all of us preachers sit down there, 12 preachers, and their wives, their kids, Claton clan, what I call them. The grandpa of the little girl, my son, Philip, started to sing. We used to travel and sing, played 6 instruments, and our family sang together for years. And he started singing. Oh, he started singing them good old songs.